Hello, boring people. Tonight we travel back to a time when everything was trying to kill you, and usually succeeded. The sky is heavy with ash and mist. The trees are too tall, the shadows too long. Somewhere out there, a Smilodon sniffs the air. It hasn't invented the concept of mercy, and you just woke up on a dirt patch in your pajamas. You blink against the low sun. Your neck hurts because you slept on a rock. Your feet are bare, and the last warm thing you touched was probably your phone. Good luck charging that now. Your stomach growls, but there's no fridge, not even a suspicious gas station sandwich in sight. Just dirt and twigs and bugs that look weirdly confident. You look around, no houses, no cities, no signs, just nature, loud and uninterested in your existence. And the smell, it's like a mix of wet dog, compost, and something recently dead. Probably not an air freshener. You stand up, wobble slightly, and realize how badly your legs are cramping. You've been lying in a fetal position all night because it was freezing. No blanket, no fire. Just you and the stars, which you tried counting before losing interest and passing out. So before you jump into this boring and sleepy prehistoric story, please take a moment to like my videos and subscribe to my channel, but only if you actually enjoy and feel comfortable with the stories I tell here. And if you're still awake, comment below where you're watching from and what time it is for you. I love seeing who else can't sleep. Now, lie down and relax, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's start our boring journey together tonight. You begin walking, hoping for food, fire, or at least a familiar voice. Spoiler, you'll find none of the above. Welcome to the Paleolithic, the longest chapter of human existence. Tools are crude, people are rare, and survival? Ha! That's a stretch. You hear the crunch of leaves behind you, turn quickly, nothing, but your heart is already racing. Historians still argue whether early humans lived mostly alone or in small groups, but either way, you're flying solo. If there's a clan around, they haven't seen you yet, or they're hiding, and they're not big on strangers. Your first problem? You're soft. Your skin, your hands, your joints, everything about you screams desk job. Your toenails are pristine, your muscles underdeveloped, and your face lacks the 1,000-yard stare of someone who's having to fight a hyena for lunch. That's going to be a problem. Especially when you hear something rustling nearby. A rodent? A person? A massive carnivorous bird that hasn't been fossilized yet? You consider hiding, but where? The bushes are full of thorns. You try one and immediately regret it. Those aren't thorns. Those are bugs, and they are so mad. You trudge forward, every step squelching in the muddy ground. There's no trail, no road signs, just ancient forests and distant animal sounds. Something howls, not the cute kind. You start to wonder, what year is it? Scientists think the early Stone Age began around 2.5 million years ago. You're probably dropped somewhere in the middle, let's say 300,000 years ago, give or take. Homo sapiens have just shown up, but no farming yet, no metal tools, and definitely no takeout. Quirky fact, at this time, some humans may have had blue eyes and pale skin, an adaptation that came and went like your optimism. There's no sunscreen though. One afternoon in the open sun and your nose is peeling like bad wallpaper. By now you've realized there's no way to tell time. The sun moves too slowly. You can't Google sunset. You're stuck using your own shadow, which you quickly learn is not an exact science. Also, you're thirsty, but the river looks brown. You scoop a handful and sniff. Regret. You drink it anyway. That, my friend, was a mistake. Fun fringe tidbit. Prehistoric humans developed some immunity to local bacteria over generations. You did not. That water is plotting your downfall as we speak. You sit down for a moment on a large rock that is, unfortunately, already occupied by ants the size of raisins. They swarm up your leg like they've been waiting for you. You leap, yelp, and swat at your shins like a lunatic. Somewhere, an owl stares judgmentally. There's a distant plume of smoke. Hope? Maybe. But fire in the wild could mean humans, or something just exploded, or lightning, or a volcano, or something eating something else on fire. Your brain is foggy. Hunger has officially set in, the kind where you'd gladly eat a stale tortilla chip you found in your pocket, except your pocket has lint, not food. You eye some berries. They're bright and cheerful. You remember that usually means don't eat me. You eat one anyway. It's bitter. Your tongue goes numb. Historians still argue whether prehistoric diets were varied or mostly seasonal. You now understand why. There's nothing consistent here. One day, nuts and berries. The next day, boiled grass. The day after that, nothing but regret and intestinal distress. Your shadow stretches. The day is ending, and you've accomplished nothing except minor dehydration, one probable ant bite, and an aggressive sunburn. Still, there's one comfort. You haven't died yet. That's more than most can say on day one in the Stone Age. Your prehistoric self is filthy, itchy, and anxious, but alive. For now. You're hungry. Not just I skipped lunch hungry, but the kind of hollow, bone-deep emptiness that makes tree bark look vaguely appetizing. You've had dreams about grilled cheese sandwiches that felt more nourishing than this. And now it's morning. Which means if you want to survive another sleep-deprived, ant-bitten night, you need food, not dreams, not hallucinations, real prehistoric calories. So you wander, your stomach growls, your eyes scan for movement. You're not looking for berries anymore. Not after the last time your tongue turned numb and your lips tingled like they'd been dipped in battery acid. No, now you're hunting. You crouch beside a bush and peer through the undergrowth like some kind of nature documentary reject. Nothing, just the sound of wind through grass and the occasional angry insect. But then, movement. Something small and furry darts across the clearing. A rabbit? A prehistoric weasel? Maybe something completely extinct with a Latin name no one agrees on? Doesn't matter. It's fast. You're not. Still, you give chase. Because what else are you gonna do? You sprint like your life depends on it, and frankly, it kind of does. Your feet slap against uneven dirt. Every twig is a trap, every bush a maze, and the animal gone in seconds. You bend over, wheezing. This is cardio on nightmare mode. Historians still argue whether early Homo sapiens hunted in groups or sometimes went solo. All you know is, going solo right now is a mistake. You're not the top predator out here. You're barely in the top 10. Frustrated, you grab a rock. It's heavy, it has potential. You imagine yourself using it like a prehistoric baseball bat, ambushing some innocent creature. But that fantasy is interrupted by something loud and disturbingly close. A low grunt. You freeze. Something's in the bushes. Something big. You do the slow head turn, the universal move of someone about to either flee or faint. Emerging from the trees is a boar, a wild, muscular, prehistoric pig with tusks the size of salad tongues and the attitude of a biker in a bar fight. It snorts once. You're not sure if that means I see you or I'm choosing violence today. Here's your big chance. Protein, energy, survival. You raise the rock, the boar charges, you drop the rock, you run. You sprint like your life depends on it. Again, and this time, there's absolutely no doubt. You can hear it crashing behind you, heavy hooves pounding, the underbrush snapping like twigs. Your feet bleed, your lungs burn, and you pray, not for safety, but for dignity. You dive behind a fallen log. The boar keeps going. Thank whatever prehistoric deity may be listening. You lie still, breathing, shaking, dirt in your mouth, blood on your palm from where you tripped and scraped yourself. You're now officially wounded, starving, and embarrassed. Welcome to hunting in the Stone Age. Still, you're not giving up. That would be too easy. You try a different strategy, trap setting. This sounds clever in theory, and you vaguely remember a survival show where someone made a snare from vines. So you gather some vine-like plants, twist them together, and try to make a loop. An hour later, you've made a knot. A very bad knot. Fringe tidbit: some anthropologists believe early humans used pit traps, chasing animals into hidden holes. You look around, spot a shallow depression, and think, maybe I could dig that deeper. 20 minutes in, you realize digging with your bare hands is awful. The dirt is hard, your nails are bending, and you're sweating so much it's starting to sting the cut on your hand. You give up. There's a rustle behind you again. Your shoulders tense. This time it's a bird. A big, fat, prehistoric turkey thing. It struts out like it owns the place. Your heart pounds. This could be it. Dinner. You hurl your rock. It bounces off a tree and hits you in the shin. The bird squawks and bolts. You lie on the ground, cradling your leg and whispering softly to yourself. Your ancestors did this every day. They woke up starving. They hunted for hours. They failed more than they succeeded. And when they did succeed, they had to fight other predators, sometimes other humans, for the right to eat. Historians still argue whether early humans scavenged more than they hunted. Maybe you should take a hint. You abandon the hunt and start looking for leftovers, bones, carcasses, anything with even a bit of meat. And then, jackpot. You spot a dead animal in the distance, something small. A deer, maybe, already down. You creep forward, heart pounding with excitement and dread. You can smell it before you see it clearly. It's bloated. The eyes are gone. The smell hits like a punch in the face. But you're too far gone to care. You kneel beside the carcass and poke at the meat. It's still soft, maybe edible, but you're not alone. Buzzing. You look up. Flies. A whole swarm of them. And worse, maggots. You recoil. This isn't food, it's biology class. Still, your stomach growls again. It doesn't care. You nearly gag, then retreat. Even scavenging, it seems, has its limits. The sun is climbing now, hotter than before. You haven't eaten, you haven't drunk anything safe. Your one wound is stinging, and all you've caught is a cold sweat and a bruised shin. You lie down in the shade of a tree, just for a moment. You'll try again later, right after you close your eyes. When you wake up, it's because something is crawling on your face. Not metaphorically, not in a dream, literally. Your eyelid flutters, and for a split second, all you can see is legs. Tiny, jointed, fast-moving legs. You swat blindly, launching the creature into the underbrush and yourself into a full-body spasm of disgust. You slap at your arms, your legs, your neck, paranoid now. Was it a spider? A beetle? A prehistoric ancestor of the centipede that believes in personal violation? It doesn't matter. You're awake. Again. And you're still starving. You sit up slowly, groaning like an old door, and take a good look at yourself. Your hands are scraped raw, your knees are stained with dirt and who knows what. Your hair? Don't even ask. You look like a scarecrow that lost a bar fight, and your body is itching all over, not just from bug bites, but because you've started sweating off the last remnants of your modern hygiene. There are no razors here, no showers, no shampoo, and most tragically, no deodorant. Nature doesn't care if you smell like a moldy sock. So what now? You need tools, desperately. Something sharp, something solid. You need to make a weapon, because let's be honest, if you can't hunt or defend yourself soon, you'll become someone else's lunch. Possibly the boars. Possibly those humans you still haven't seen yet. You scan the area. Rocks. Lots of them. Some are round, some jagged. You pick up a likely candidate, flat, sharp-edged, and just heavy enough to feel dangerous. You attempt to sharpen it, the way cavemen do in movies, right? You smack two stones together and wait for the magic to happen. Spoiler, The magic does not happen. Instead, one stone breaks and a sliver slices into your thumb. Blood oozes out. Congratulations, your first injury from trying to be useful. Fringe tidbit: some of the earliest known tools were made over 2.5 million years ago in Africa, chipped from volcanic rock. Called Oldowan tools, they weren't pretty, but they worked. You, on the other hand, have just made a paperweight with blood on it. You try again, slower this time. Eventually, you produce something that vaguely resembles a blade, if you squint, and if your standards are very low. Feeling a flicker of pride, you attach it to a stick. Or try to. Turns out tying things together is hard without rope. You tear off a strip of your own clothing, which now has more holes than a conspiracy theory, and tie the blade to the stick. It wobbles. A lot. But it's your first spear. Sort of. Historians still argue whether early humans used glue made from tree sap and ash for tools at this point in history. You consider trying that, then remember you don't even have clean water, let alone functional adhesives. Still, armed with your wobble spear, you feel a little more confident, like you've just unlocked the first item on a survival game crafting tree. You head out, determined to hunt again, or at least not immediately die. But your surroundings aren't cooperating. The terrain is rugged, filled with uneven ground, hidden holes, and logs that look like benches but are actually full of termites. You trip twice, narrowly avoiding a twisted ankle both times. You press on. Your weapon clinks awkwardly against your leg. The sun is higher now, hotter. Your lips are dry. Your stomach makes a noise like a distant thunderclap. You begin to hallucinate shapes in the shadows. Maybe a deer, maybe a person, maybe just your brain trying to make sense of branches. You stop at a creek, different from the one you drank from earlier. This one is clear. You think. Maybe. You sip. It tastes okay. No immediate stomach cramps. You consider that a win. Feeling slightly better, you continue scouting. And finally, you spot something. A small rodent-like creature nibbling on a leaf. It hasn't seen you. You crouch. You hold your spear like you imagine a warrior would. You throw. It bounces off a rock 5 feet to the left. The rodent freezes, then vanishes with astonishing speed. You collapse onto a log. Tool making. Not a complete failure. Hunting, still embarrassing. But you're learning. Slowly, painfully. One bruised ego at a time. You gather more stones, this time experimenting with different shapes. One is flint-like, and when you chip it against another, you get a sharp edge. It cuts through a reed with ease. Now that's more like it. You begin carving a more focused blade using trial and error. The process takes hours. Your hands are shaking by the end. But you finally produce something that could genuinely stab something besides your own pride. Quirky fact: in some prehistoric regions, tool makers left behind workshops, sites filled with flakes and failed attempts. Turns out, even back then, most people weren't good at this on the first try. You are not alone in your incompetence. That's comforting. Sort of. As dusk approaches, you begin gathering materials to attempt fire again. You've got rocks, you've got sticks, you even have some dried grass. You strike flint on another rock. Nothing. You try again. Still nothing. Then a spark. It dies immediately. You try again. Your fingers blister. Your hands ache. Spark. Flicker. Gone. It's like dating. A lot of energy, a lot of disappointment, no warmth. Historians still argue whether early humans could reliably make fire or mostly stole it from natural causes. You now understand why stealing it was the more popular choice. By nightfall, your tool lies beside you. It's not perfect, but it's sharp. You feel a little safer, a little more prepared. Tomorrow, maybe it'll help. Tonight, it's back to the ground, the dark and the humbling reminder that you are wildly unequipped for this. You wake up in the dark to something howling in the distance. Not close, but close enough to be unsettling. Your first instinct is to pull the covers over your head. Unfortunately, you don't have covers, you have leaves, and one of them is stuck to your cheek. You sit up slowly, spear still by your side, and scan the night around you. It's hard to see. There's no artificial glow, no street lights, no gentle hum of electricity. Just stars, far too many of them, and the endless silhouettes of trees. And then the howling again. Longer this time, higher. Wolves? Hyenas? Some prehistoric cousin with too many teeth and a dramatic flair? You stay still. Listen hard, but the forest has gone silent again, like it's holding its breath. Sleep is officially canceled. You sit, knees pulled up to your chest, watching the woods as if staring hard enough will keep the predators away. And while you wait, the cold begins to settle in. Here's something you didn't expect. Prehistoric nights are cold, even after a hot day. Especially if you've got no shelter and no fire, which, let's face it, you still don't. You try to build a little nest of leaves and branches, huddling in, trying to conserve body heat. Your breath curls in front of your face. You wrap your arms tighter around yourself and shiver. Historians still argue whether early humans wore animal hides this far back or relied more on cave shelter and fire for warmth. You've got neither. You've got ripped modern fabric and a few layers of grime. Not exactly Arctic ready. Eventually you doze off, lightly, fitfully, until a sudden noise jolts you again. Crack. Footsteps? You grab your spear and hold your breath. Something is moving in the underbrush. Slow, deliberate, heavy. You squint through the dark, the shadows shift. Then, eyes, reflecting the moonlight, yellow, unblinking. It steps forward just enough to break the illusion of safety. A big cat, possibly a leopard, possibly something worse. Your pulse skyrockets. You try to remember all the things modern people say about predators. Don't run. Make yourself look big. Don't stare it in the eyes, but also don't look away. You sit frozen, heart pounding, as the creature watches you. Then it blinks, turns, disappears. It had something better to do tonight. You wait a full 10 minutes before moving, maybe more. Eventually, your legs cramp from the tension. You stretch out and try again to rest, but your body won't cooperate. So you do what any prehistoric person might have done. You try to move. You stumble away from your sleeping spot, dragging your belongings and spear along, trying to find someplace higher, safer. Maybe a rock outcrop or a tree. You find one eventually, a slightly raised area of stone. You sit with your back to a boulder, your eyes scanning the darkness. You still can't sleep, but you feel slightly less exposed. Slightly. In the dim, you reflect on the idea of shelter. You now understand why people invented caves. Fringe tidbit: not all prehistoric humans lived in caves. Many likely built huts from bones and branches or found natural rock overhangs. But caves, when they were accessible, offered protection, warmth, and a manageable entry point. A single door to guard in a world full of threats. You look around, but there's no cave here. Just trees and rocks and your own increasing paranoia. As the night drags on, your mind starts to play tricks. Every snapping twig is a threat. Every breeze becomes the breath of something creeping up behind you. Your muscles ache from tension, your eyelids droop. But sleep? Real sleep? Still out of reach. Eventually, you nod off upright, back against the stone, your spear still gripped like a security blanket. You dream in flashes, falling, running, something screaming. When you jolt awake, it's dawn again. Pale light is trickling through the trees. You've made it through the night. Barely. You stretch and your back cracks like dry wood. Your joints feel like someone replaced them with rusted hinges. But you're alive. You're cold, dirty, hungry, and increasingly aware that this world isn't designed for single players. There's no pause button, no return to main menu, no sleeping in safety until sunrise. It's constant awareness, constant vulnerability. And you're starting to crack under the pressure. Modern life, your real life, is starting to feel like a hallucination. Showers, fridges, blankets, walls. You'd trade your spear for a cup of instant noodles in a heartbeat, but there's no trade, no exit. You stand up, legs wobbling like a newborn foal, and take stock of your gear. One blunt spear, one dull stone knife, a handful of bruises, and the growing suspicion that something out here wants to eat you. You need shelter, real shelter, not just shade, not just cover. A place to hunker down, hide, and possibly survive another terrifying night. So you start walking again. The sun rises behind you, your stomach growls, the spear digs into your shoulder. Welcome to day 2. Your feet hurt. Again, you've barely been walking for an hour, but it feels like you've hiked across continents. Every route is a trap. Every pebble might as well be a landmine. And let's be honest, your prehistoric footwear, also known as your sad, tattered socks, have now completely given up. One is hanging by threads. The other has fused with your foot in a grimy alliance. So naturally, today's mission is build shelter. You've survived your first night out in the open, and that was a disaster. You can't go through that again. So now you're on the lookout for something, anything, that could serve as a decent place to sleep without feeling like a burrito on the forest floor. The good news, you're surrounded by trees. The bad news, you don't know what kind they are, what bugs live in them, or whether they're secretly toxic and plotting your downfall. Still, you get to work. Slowly. You start with branches, the kind that are dead but not too brittle, thick ones for a frame, thinner ones for cross support. Then you gather some leafy ones for cover. You also find bark peeling from a tree trunk and carefully peel more. Could be useful for patching holes. You try to remember every survival video you've ever passively watched at 3 a.m. The ones where some calm Australian guy builds a luxury treehouse out of mud and vines in 45 minutes. Except now you realize he had tools and practice and probably a production crew. You have a wobbly spear and enthusiasm. So you go for the basics. A lean-to. You find a low-hanging tree branch and prop a thick stick against it. Then you stack smaller branches diagonally to form a slanted roof. It's wonky. It leans wrong. It collapses once. But you try again. Eventually you manage something that kind of resembles a shelter, from one side anyway. Fringe fact, archaeological evidence suggests that early humans may have constructed basic huts as far back as 400,000 years ago, likely using sticks, bones, and animal skins. You, however, have made a crooked triangle that might repel wind if the wind is polite. Still, it's shelter. Sort of. You reinforce it with more branches, shove in some moss for insulation, and line the floor with leaves. It's uneven and probably full of bugs, but it beats sleeping on damp dirt. And now, just as you're feeling smug, it starts to rain. Of course. At first it's just a sprinkle, then it escalates into a drizzle, then full-on prehistoric misery. You scramble under your roof, hugging your knees. The water leaks in through every gap. Leaves drip directly onto your scalp. The floor turns to mud under you. Your shelter is now a wet sculpture of failure. Historians still argue whether early people developed drainage techniques in their shelters, but you know this. You have not. So you sit, shivering, damp, hungry, with mud squelching between your toes and nothing to eat except maybe your own sense of optimism. You consider trying to catch rainwater. You set out a large leaf. It fills slowly, tastes cleaner than the stream. That's a minor victory. Then thunder rolls in. You curl tighter. There are no weather apps here. No storm warnings, no gentle blue radar maps telling you when the rain will end. Just water and noise and the gnawing dread that you're going to catch hypothermia in a world that doesn't know what antibiotics are yet. The rain finally eases after what feels like a century. The clouds stay, gray and heavy, but the downpour stops. You crawl out of your shelter, now resembling a swamp dweller from a budget horror movie. You squish when you walk. Your next priority? Fire. Again. You gather dry materials. Just kidding. There are none. Everything's damp. Even the inside of your baggy modern pants is damp, and you have no idea how that happened. Still, you try. Stone, flint, spark, no flame. You try again and again. Nothing. Quirky tidbit, in some parts of prehistoric Europe, fire-making kits were made from iron pyrite and flint, producing sparks when struck. Dry fungus or tree bark was used as tinder. You have no fungus, just a soggy mood and rising frustration. After hours of trying, you give up. The idea of fire is now a cruel joke. So instead, you wander. Not too far, just enough to scout the area. You look for caves, better shelter options, maybe even signs of other life. You find tracks in the mud. Animal, probably. Four-legged. You can't tell what kind, but the prints are large and deep, still fresh. You follow them a little, then stop. If the creature is big, you probably don't want to meet it, so you turn back. You pass a tree full of low-hanging fruit. Your stomach leaps with excitement. You pause. Could be edible, could be poison. Historians still argue whether early humans developed food knowledge by trial and error or through observation of other animals. You look around, no monkeys, no birds, no helpful deer eating fruit and giving you the green light. You pick one, sniff it, touch it to your lips. Bitter, but not burning. You take a nibble. Wait, no nausea, no dizziness, just the taste of extremely unripe plum meets grapefruit sadness. You eat the rest anyway. It's the first real food you've had since arriving. Your body wants more. You eat 3, 4, 5. You're not full, but your stomach finally quiets. Back at your muddy camp, you settle under your dripping shelter. It's still awful, but at least you've eaten. You even drink another leafful of rainwater. As night falls, you reinforce the walls with new branches, layering in drier leaves you found nearby. It's not a home, not really, but it's yours now. It smells like wet dog and swamp, but you've put in work. And when the sky darkens again and the forest starts its creepy nighttime choir, you lie down on your soggy leaf bed with your dull spear beside you. Tomorrow, you tell yourself, you'll find something better. Tonight, you just try to stay dry. Rain again. This time, it doesn't even wait until nightfall. It comes in the afternoon, cold, smug, and relentless. The kind of rain that doesn't fall on you so much as through you, like it's personally offended that you exist in its path. You try to stay inside your pathetic shelter, but it's quickly clear that inside is a generous term. Water seeps through the leaves, drips from the ceiling, runs in from the sides. Within minutes, your dry spot turns into a marshy puddle. You give up and crawl out, sloshing barefoot through the mud. So now you're wet, cold, and in a rotten mood. Again. But here's the kicker. You smell terrible. It's not just dirt and sweat anymore. It's something deeper, more human, earthy in the wrong way. You've gone full swamp mammal, and even you can't stand yourself. Which brings us to today's unexpected quest, primitive hygiene. You wander down to the stream, your sketchy, leech-infested water source, and strip off your grime-stiff clothes. You ease in, teeth chattering, and immediately regret every decision you've ever made. The water is freezing. Not refreshing, freezing. Vengeful deity, freezing. Still you scrub, with sand, with moss, with a vaguely soap-shaped stone you really hope isn't an insect nest. You rub your arms, legs, face, hair. You scrape out layers of filth that seem to have fused with your skin. It's deeply unpleasant, but strangely satisfying. Fun fact, early humans likely used abrasive materials like ash, sand, or powdered bark for cleaning. Some even used animal fat mixed with wood ash, a basic precursor to soap. You haven't reached that level of innovation yet, but you do rub moss between your toes and call it a spa day. And then, of course, you hear something splash downstream. You freeze. Could be a deer. Could be a predator. Could be something sent to punish you for trying to have one nice moment. You duck down and wait, barely breathing, until the sound fades. You finish rinsing, then dash out of the water like it's chasing you. You dry off with your shirt, which smells like regret, then redress and squelch your way back to camp. At least now your skin isn't crunchy. Back at your shelter, you take stock. You're cleaner. You've learned some basic shelter skills. You've figured out how to drink safely, mostly, but you still haven't cracked the biggest issue: fire. Without fire, you can't dry your clothes, can't cook food, can't keep animals away, and most painfully, can't feel warm for more than 6 minutes at a time. So today, you try again. You scout for new materials. You search for drier wood sheltered under thick tree canopies. You peel bark, dig through leaf piles, find a weird fuzzy mushroom that looks flammable and definitely suspicious. You build your little fire nest carefully this time. Tiny sticks, pine needles, bark shavings, that weird fuzzy mushroom you've named Steve, then flint, strike, spark, nothing. Again, spark, still nothing. You try for hours, smoke, a faint flicker, but no sustained flame. You scream into a leaf, and then, by complete accident, a spark lands just right. Smoke swirls. You fan gently. You breathe like a sacred ritual, and it catches. Tiny, wobbly, glorious. Your first fire, it sputters, it tries to die, but you feed it carefully. You give it love. You whisper to it like a fire god. And for the first time since arriving here, you win. Mainstream historical fact: Homo erectus may have controlled fire as far back as 1.5 million years ago, but control probably meant keep it alive if lightning hits a tree. Making it from scratch? That came much later, and it was never easy. Now you get it. This tiny flame becomes your everything. You dry your clothes, warm your fingers, heat your stream water in a bark bowl until it's hot-ish and tastes less like pond sadness. You sit by the fire like it's a luxury hotel lobby. You even try cooking something. The last of those weird fruits, skewered on a stick. It tastes slightly less sour now, almost edible. The fire changes everything. Your mood lifts, your confidence grows. You start thinking, hey, maybe I can survive this. Which is exactly when nature decides to knock you back down. Because now, mid-fire celebration, you feel an itch. On your arm, then your leg, then everywhere. You look down and realize you are absolutely swarmed with insects, tiny prehistoric bugs, some flying, some biting, some crawling under your shirt like they own the place. You leap up and slap wildly, running in circles like a lunatic. It's a full invasion. Fun fact, prehistoric humans had to deal with lice, fleas, mites, and all sorts of cheerful bloodsuckers. Even Neanderthal combs show signs of delousing. Some early tribes burned specific plants to repel bugs, or just smeared mud all over themselves and hoped for the best. You do both. You scoop up wet mud and slather it on your arms and neck. It's gross, but it helps, slightly. You also grab a handful of green leaves and toss them on the fire. They produce thick, pungent smoke. Your eyes burn, your throat closes up, but the bugs back off. Your fire now smells like toxic salad, but you call it victory. And somehow that's how the day ends. Covered in mud, smelling like singed lettuce, but warm and dry and sitting beside a fire you made. You crawl into your shelter, smoke wafting in like a sleepy blanket. You still don't have food, still don't have shoes, still have mystery bites blossoming on your ankles, but you have flame. You have light. And for the first time since arriving in this ancient nightmare, you sleep a little deeper. You wake up to a hiss. Not a snake, though that would be on brand at this point, but the dying breath of your fire. A thin coil of smoke rises like a ghost stretching after a nap, and just like that, your tiny warmth god is gone. You sit up groggily, brushing twigs from your hair, and feel a new kind of pain. Back pain. Sleep on mud back pain. The kind of stiffness that no amount of stretching or modern foam mattresses can ever forgive. Your whole spine is filing a formal complaint. You groan and emerge from your shelter like some sort of ancient cryptid. Your first thought, food. Your second, firewood. Your third, seriously, still no coffee? Welcome to day whatever it is in prehistory. You head out to search for kindling. Again, because if there's one thing this life guarantees, it's that every morning begins with chores and every evening ends with more. On your walk, you notice the forest is changing. Less muddy, more rocky. The undergrowth thins a little. You hear more birds, fewer bugs. You stumble upon a small ridge, and as you climb it, something shifts in your brain. You found a view. It spreads before you. Endless trees, a winding stream, maybe even a distant herd of grazing animals. Could be deer, could be prehistoric cows, could be something invented solely to trample tourists. Either way, it's beautiful and terrifying. Because out here, there's no sign of other people. No smoke in the distance, no animal hides drying on poles, just you. That loneliness, it sneaks up hard. Mainstream fact, early humans often lived in small mobile groups, band-level societies. Family cluster of solo survival was rare and dangerous. Humans are wired for cooperation, not isolation. But you don't have a tribe, you have a stick. So you do what prehistoric humans may have done when solitude hit hard. You talk to things. First, your fire pit, then a particularly smooth rock. Eventually, you name a squirrel Dennis and thank him for his presence. Dennis does not reply. Dennis is busy stealing a nut. You miss noise, chatter, even the fake background hum of modern life. The absence of language gnaws at you. Your thoughts feel louder but less structured, like they're dissolving into primal soup. Historians still argue whether language began with symbolic grunts, gesture systems, or mimicry of animal sounds. But you're discovering something unsettling. Without people to talk to, your inner monologue becomes strange, melty, a little too comfortable with naming moss clumps and giving them personalities. You try to keep it together. You gather wood, restart the fire, eat another handful of half-rotten fruit. You even try to make tools again. Using a flat stone and a sharper one, you chip away until your thumbs are sore and your rock is just more rock. Still, eventually, you shape something. It's not a knife, but it's kind of knife adjacent, jagged, ugly, definitely capable of drawing blood, which you prove by accidentally nicking yourself with it. You clean the cut in the stream, muttering about tetanus like a medieval monk who's time traveled badly. Quirky tidbit, Otzi the Iceman, a 5,000-year-old frozen mummy found in the Alps, carried a flint knife with a wooden handle, plus a full survival kit including a fire-starting fungus and birch bark. You, however, are just proud your knife has a pointy bit. That night, as you sit by your fire chewing bitter leaves and debating whether Dennis would betray you in a crisis, the sky puts on a show. Stars, real ones, no city light to dull them. Just pinpricks of fire stretching across blackness so deep it feels like falling. You lie back and stare. You wonder what ancient people thought these were. Gods, holes in the sky, animal spirits watching from above. Historians still argue whether Paleolithic humans had structured myths about the stars or simply reacted with awe and fear. But here, alone in the wild, the stars feel less like stories and more like reminders. Reminders that you are very, very small. You fall asleep thinking about it. Thinking about your tribe, if you'd had one, what their names would be. Whether they'd be warm and clever or loud and annoying but safe. You dream of voices, laughter, footsteps, and when you wake up, you're not alone. You freeze. There's a sound outside your shelter. Soft, measured, not animal-like, not scurrying or sniffing. Walking. You grab your spear, it trembles slightly in your hands. Your heart is pounding. You peek out through a crack in the wall of sticks and moss. Nothing. Then a shape, just a glimpse, gone in a flash. Human, animal, both. You step outside whispering hello. No answer. You check the area. No footprints, no scent, but something was there, watching. And just like that, loneliness shifts into paranoia. Every tree seems suspicious now. Every rustle is something ready to take what little you have. You sit close to your fire all night, spear in hand, eyes darting toward the dark. Whatever or whoever it was, they didn't come back. Not yet. But now you know, you're not the only thing surviving out here. You wake with a jolt. You're back against a tree and your spear still clutched in your hand. The fire is out. Just gray ash now, but the world is quiet. Too quiet. You sit very still. The forest feels different this morning. Heavier. Like it's holding its breath. You scan the edge of the trees, half expecting that shape to return, the figure you saw or imagined the night before. But there's nothing, just dripping leaves and the faint buzz of insects waking up for another day of biting you. You're not alone out here. That's clear now. And it changes everything. Your whole plan, such as it was, has to adapt. Today is about defense. The first thing you do is check your perimeter, which is a fancy way of saying you stomp around nervously with a stick, poking bushes and whispering hello to squirrels. You don't find footprints or signs of another human, but that doesn't mean much. Early humans were experts at moving quietly, and so are predators, especially the two-legged kind. So you start building a barrier, not a wall. There's no way you're hauling rocks like you're in Minecraft, but a ring of sharpened sticks. You dig small holes with your knife-rock hybrid. You've decided to call it a slicer because failure felt too negative, and jam branches in at an angle. Not pretty, but maybe enough to make something think twice. Then a trap. Don't get excited. It's barely more than a noose of vine laid under leaves, inspired by what you think you saw in a documentary once. The odds of catching anything other than your own foot are high. Still, it feels like a move. Mainstream historical fact. Our ancestors used all sorts of traps, from pitfall pits to spring snares. Some were brutally effective. Others, not so much. Many relied on knowledge of animal movement patterns, which you don't have because you're too busy naming squirrels and talking to rocks, so you settle for loud. You hang a few clunky noisemakers around your camp, bones clacking, sticks rubbing, the ancient version of wind chimes. They won't stop anyone, but they might wake you up before something eats your feet. Around midday, you go on a short expedition, upstream, cautiously, spear ready. You don't get far before you spot something that makes your stomach twist. A footprint, human or humanoid, bare, deep, wider than yours. You crouch and stare at it like it's a message from the underworld. Historians still argue whether early Homo sapiens lived peacefully alongside other human species like Neanderthals or Denisovans. The answer? Sometimes yes, sometimes absolutely not. Coexistence could mean trade or war, or awkward standoffs involving sticks and fruit. You don't wait to find out. You backtrack to your camp, trying to leave as little trail as possible. You add more wood to your fire, build it higher than usual. Fire means safety, visibility. You hope the glow will keep anything away, or at least give you warning. Quirky tidbit, some prehistoric groups used charred wood and red ochre to paint symbols on trees or rocks to mark territory. You briefly consider doing this, then realize you have no idea what to paint. A frowny face? A squirrel with a knife? You settle for smearing ash in a crude X on a tree trunk. Dramatic, but satisfying. Back at camp, you start thinking about weapons. Your current spear is just a stick with an attitude. You need something better, sharper. So you experiment with fire-hardened tips, holding the end of a pointed stick in the flames until it blackens and strengthens. When you test it by jabbing a log, it actually works. You make 2 more. Now you've got a mini arsenal, and that gives you just enough confidence to think about hunting. You haven't had real food in days. Fruit and leaves aren't cutting it. You're losing weight. Energy. Your hands shake when you stand too fast. If you don't eat soon, the forest is going to eat you. So you make a plan. You follow the stream quietly, moving as smoothly as you can, imitating the movements of big cats you've seen in documentaries. You crouch low, breathe through your nose, avoid stepping on sticks. You are the apex predator. You are the hunter. Then you sneeze loudly, and a whole flock of birds explodes from a bush nearby like feathery chaos. You freeze, then laugh, then sigh. Because of course. But as you turn to head back, you spot something ahead. A rabbit. Small, twitchy, brown. It's drinking from the stream. You drop into a crouch, grip your spear, and inch forward. Closer, closer. You raise the spear and miss completely. The rabbit vanishes into the underbrush, unharmed and probably very judgmental. You sit down, defeated, but weirdly proud. You hunted, sort of. You know what direction you need to move in now. Not just survival, thriving. Your stomach may be empty, but your head is filling with plans. Real, practical, prehistoric plans. You gather wild garlic on the way back, at least that much you recognize by smell. You add it to your sad leaf pile for dinner and pretend it's gourmet. That night, as you settle into your shelter surrounded by spears, sticks, and defensive rocks, you don't feel safe, but you feel smarter. The fear is still there, but now it's sharing space with focus. Whatever else is out there, beast or man or something in between, you're getting ready. You fall asleep with your hand resting on your fire-hardened spear, and you dream not of being rescued, but of learning how to survive. The next morning starts with a sound you haven't heard in a while. Laughter. Your own. It sneaks out as you watch a squirrel trip on your vine trap. Not caught, just annoyed. It chatters angrily at you from a branch, twitching like it's filing a complaint with prehistoric customer service. Somehow that ridiculous moment resets something inside you. After days of panic, cold, hunger, and imaginary squirrel diplomacy, you feel present. This is the moment you start acting less like a lost time traveler and more like a developing early human. Which is lucky because today your survival pivots on a major challenge: finding a stable food source. You can't live off luck and bitter roots forever. Your body is aching, your skin is rough, your muscles feel hollow, and let's be honest, those 2 berries you found yesterday tasted suspiciously like sadness. Time to evolve, or at least fake evolving. You head back toward the stream. If you're lucky, you'll spot animal tracks again. If you're really lucky, you won't have to eat something that still has a face. Mainstream fact: prehistoric humans were opportunistic omnivores. Meat was valuable, but roots, seeds, nuts, and edible greens made up the majority of the diet, especially for those without specialized tools or cooperation. You don't have a tribe, or traps that work, or much dignity left. But today, you have one word in your brain: fishing. You remember seeing a fish flash just beneath the surface yesterday. Not many, not big, but enough. So you spend the next 2 hours trying to build a fish spear. It is not a glorious process. You start with a long, flexible branch. You try to split the end with your slicer, then wedge in small, sharpened sticks to form a trident. The result is wonky, but functional. It looks like a giant fork made by a raccoon with anxiety. Still, it holds together. You wade into the stream slowly, legs shaking slightly from the cold. The water bites at your ankles, your knees. You grip the spear, you wait. Minutes crawl, you jab, miss. You jab again, still nothing. Eventually, miraculously, you manage to graze one. Just a flick, but the fish flips sideways, stunned, and you scoop it up with your hands before it wriggles free. You've done it. You've caught food. It's small, slippery, possibly toxic, but it's yours. Quirky tidbit. Evidence from ancient hearths shows that early humans often cooked fish whole, scales, eyes, bones, and all. You follow suit, awkwardly roasting your catch on a sharpened stick over the fire until it smells vaguely like victory and slightly like burnt rubber. The taste? Not good, but you eat every bite, grinning between coughs. You feel something shift again, something powerful. You hunted, kind of. You cooked. You ate. Your stomach doesn't hurt for the first time in days. And your brain, surprisingly, feels clearer. Historians still argue whether regular protein intake directly accelerated brain development in early hominins, but you're starting to believe it. Even one meal has your senses humming. The world seems sharper, the leaves greener, the squirrels less evil. You spend the afternoon improving your camp. You add a second layer of sticks to your windbreak. You reinforce your shelter's roof with bark. You even attempt to dig a hole for rainwater collection, though it mostly just fills with mud and regret. You find a patch of mushrooms. You pause. Are they edible? You don't know. You wish you had a guidebook or an app or Wi-Fi. You end up testing the mushrooms the old-fashioned way. Rub a tiny piece on your wrist. Wait, then your lips, then a nibble. So far, so good. They taste like wet paper towels, but you eat them anyway. This is your life now, wet fungus and paranoid bites. Later, you spot deer tracks, fresh ones. You follow them quietly through the underbrush until you stumble on a clearing where a small group grazes peacefully. Your heart leaps, you crouch, you ready your spear, and then you stop. They're far too fast, too big. You know you can't catch one, not yet, so you just watch. You memorize their behavior, the way they move, the sounds they make when alert or calm. It feels almost spiritual, this quiet observation, like something ancient and patient is being passed down without words. You leave the clearing without trying to kill anything. You're learning something prehistoric people knew by instinct. Sometimes survival is about waiting, watching, planning, building up your knowledge before acting. You walk back to camp under a sky smeared with fading blue. Your feet hurt less today, your hands are tougher, your shelter doesn't collapse when you sit in it. Progress. That night, you lie beside your tiny fire and look up again at the stars. They seem closer now, not magical, just real. Still cold, still uncaring, but familiar. You whisper a thanks to no one in particular, for the fish, for the deer, for the fire that hasn't failed you. And as you drift into sleep, you think you might not belong here, but you're starting to understand it. You wake before the light does. It's that inky gray hour where the world feels paused, like it's holding its breath before the next act begins. The forest is still, except for the distant echo of something howling. Not close, not far, just reminding you it exists. You sit up and stretch. Your back cracks, your neck pops, you sound like a collapsing bone xylophone. But there's no pain, not like before. Your body is adjusting, slowly, reluctantly, but still adapting. The aches aren't constant anymore. The shivering's less severe. You're not strong, but you're no longer fragile. Today, your goal is tools. Real ones. Because let's be honest, your current gear looks like it was made by someone who lost a fight with a salad. You need upgrades. The slicer is dull. Your spears are warped. Your fish fork is one jab away from becoming toothpicks. You need something that can cut, scrape, carve, something that feels like a part of your hand. Mainstream fact, early stone tools date back over 2.5 million years. The Oldowan tools, simple flakes, choppers, scrapers, marked the beginning of human ingenuity. You're not starting civilization today, but you are going to try making something that could be mistaken for a tool by a very forgiving archaeologist. You begin by scouting rocks. You've learned by now that not all stones are created equal. Some crack, some crumble, but some, like flint or obsidian, break with sharp, clean edges. You don't know what kind you're holding, but it feels right. Heavy, smooth, cold. You smash it against another rock. It chips. Progress. You keep at it for nearly an hour, sitting like a caveman in training, smacking stones together in various ways. Your hands sting. Tiny flakes shower your lap. Eventually you get a piece with one sharp edge. It cuts through bark with ease. You beam. It's ugly. It's uneven. But it works. You've made a cutting tool. Quirky tidbit, some of the earliest stone tools had names given by modern archaeologists like hand axe or scraper, though there's no evidence early humans categorized them at all. You name yours Stabby, because it stabs. Emboldened, you make more. A scraper for cleaning bark or hides? Not that you've caught anything big enough to skin yet. A tiny chisel-like edge for digging. A wedge you pretend is useful because it looks cool. You arrange them proudly on a flat stone in your camp like it's a prehistoric showroom. But tools aren't just about cutting, they're about efficiency. And so you make your next upgrade. Fire. Not fire in general. You've done that. But better fire. The smoky, unpredictable mess you've been nursing isn't cutting it. You want controlled heat, long burn, less choking. So you experiment with airflow, stacking stones to create a makeshift fire pit that draws in oxygen. It works better than expected. Flames rise cleanly, smoke flows upward. You sit by it, warming your hands, and for the first time, feel something wild creeping in. Not comfort, not safety. Ownership. You're not just surviving anymore. You're shaping this place, bending it bit by bit to your will. That's power. Historians still argue whether fire control developed gradually or suddenly, but once humans learned to shape it, civilization followed. You get it now. That night, you sharpen another spear with your new tools. You cook a handful of edible roots you dug up earlier and think about how different this day felt. Not easier, but fuller, focused. You remember the deer. You remember the fish. You remember your weird vine trap that now has a half-rotted pine cone stuck in it. You've done something today that prehistoric people did every day. Improve. No mentors, no guidebooks, just failure and trying again. Before sleep, you wrap your best tools in a leaf and bury them near your fire. Not because you're worried about thieves, but because you finally feel they're worth protecting. That's how change begins. That's how humans became more than animals. That's how you're doing it now. Slowly, clumsily, stubbornly. Tool by tool, stone by stone. Your stomach is not happy. It's been grumbling since sunrise, and not in the cute cartoon way. More like a dragon slowly waking up in your rib cage. The roots and roasted mushrooms aren't cutting it anymore. And that single fish you caught yesterday? A distant memory. Probably a hallucination, if not for the faint fish smell still clinging to your fingers. Today, your body demands more. So your focus shifts to foraging with intent. Not just poking around and hoping something green doesn't kill you, but actual strategic, wide-ranging gathering. Because here's the reality. If you lived in prehistoric times, you'd be spending most of your waking hours looking for food. Every single day. Mainstream fact, before agriculture, most human groups were foragers. It's estimated that foraging provided up to 80% of the caloric intake in many early societies. Hunting, flashier but riskier. Gathering, more reliable if you knew what to look for. You don't, but you're trying. You start with berries. You've spotted a few bushes near the stream, blue-black clusters with tiny hairs on the skin. You remember the old don't eat anything you can't name rule and ignore it, because prehistoric you has no labels anyway. You taste one, tart, almost bitter. Your tongue doesn't tingle, which you take as a win. You wait, no nausea, no creeping paralysis. You eat a handful, still alive. You fill a leaf pouch with them and head deeper into the forest. This is your first foraging circuit. You make mental notes of landmarks, bent trees, oddly shaped rocks, anything to prevent getting lost. It's methodical. It's deliberate. It's also kind of calming. You discover acorns. At first, you get excited until you try one raw and instantly regret every decision in your life. Bitter doesn't cover it. It's like chewing chalk that hates you. But then you remember something. Soaking helps. Quirky tidbit. Archaeological evidence suggests that prehistoric people leached tannins from acorns by soaking or burying them in running water. Some even ground them into flour. So you gather a handful of acorns and tuck them into a netted bag made from twisted vine, leaving them in the stream. You feel clever. You feel slightly squirrel-like. You're okay with that. Then you find the jackpot, a patch of wild tubers. They look like hairy sweet potatoes had a nervous breakdown, but they're edible. You dig carefully with your stone wedge, rinse them, and stow them away. You're starting to feel like a real gatherer. Historians still argue whether early foragers passed on knowledge orally or through shared rituals, but one thing's clear. There was memory. There was pattern. There was rhythm. You're building that rhythm now. On your way back, you find something that stops you cold. A beehive. Small. Tucked into the hollow of a tree, the buzzing is soft. Gentle. You approach slowly. There's no way you're leaving it alone. You grab a smoky stick from your fire bundle. Yes, you're carrying smoke now because you're that person, and wave it gently near the hive. It works. Sort of. The bees scatter just enough for you to plunge your hand in and break off a small honeycomb chunk. You run like a fool, but you don't get stung. Victory. Victory. You eat the honey on the spot, sticky fingers and all. It's impossibly sweet, almost sinful. After days of earthy flavors, it's like lightning on your tongue. You're still chewing when you get back to camp. You light your fire, roast the tubers, and inspect the soaked acorns. You'll grind them tomorrow, maybe bake them on a flat rock. You're not sure what prehistoric bread tastes like, but you're ready to find out. That night, you organize your haul. Berries in a woven pouch, tubers under ash, honey stored in a bark cup. You smile at your stash like you're running a Stone Age grocery store. Then you lie back. The moon is high. The stars wink like they know something you don't. You think about the squirrel you saw 2 days ago, the deer, the bees, the bitter acorn. You think about how much of today was spent learning, even if you didn't know it at the time. You're not just reacting anymore, you're planning, you're adapting. You're remembering what works, and more importantly, what doesn't. Your brain is starting to work the way early human brains had to, constantly cataloging patterns, smells, colors, shapes, what's safe, what's dangerous, what might feed you, what might kill you slowly over 4 agonizing days. You realize something. You're not just surviving today. You're participating in this world. It's a harsh one, but for the first time, it feels like one you're part of. The air smells like rain, not storm, just a slow, creeping dampness that settles into everything. The sky's an overcast smudge. The birds are quieter. Even the wind has that cautious pre-drop tension. You know what this means? Weather is changing. And in prehistoric times, that's a big deal. You don't have forecasts, no radar, no push notifications telling you to bring an umbrella. All you have is your nose, your skin, and a rapidly growing respect for shelter building. Because here's the thing, you've been lucky so far. A few light drizzles, a foggy morning, nothing serious. But now it smells like the planet's about to take a shower, and forget to tell you. Mainstream fact, prehistoric humans were highly attuned to environmental cues. Air pressure changes, bird patterns, cloud shapes, long before meteorology existed. Recognizing weather shifts wasn't about curiosity. It was about survival. You pack up your camp in a hurry, not to leave, but to reconfigure. Everything you've learned so far comes into play. You reinforce the windbreak, double layering branches and wedging bark pieces tightly across the gaps. You thicken your bedding with dried grasses, ones you collected earlier and left to dry on a flat stone like a surprisingly efficient caveman duvet. You even raise the floor slightly by stacking sticks and leaves so water won't soak your sleeping area if it floods. You're improvising drainage. Not bad, you. You hear the first drop before you see it. A fat, wet plop on a leaf. Then another and another. Then the sky opens. You huddle inside your upgraded shelter, watching the rain turn the world silver. The leaves shimmer, the ground hisses, and slowly, inevitably, everything starts to leak. No matter how clever you were, you can't stop water from being water. It seeps, it sneaks, it finds you. Still, you manage to stay mostly dry, at least compared to your first night. And that's saying something. Quirky tidbit. Archaeologists have found evidence of prehistoric humans waterproofing shelters with animal fats or clay, techniques far beyond your current messy bark and hope situation. The real trouble comes with the cold. Rain soaks your clothes, your skin prickles. The fire dies within minutes, drowned in steaming. Smoke curls like a retreating snake. You wrap yourself in your leaf mat, pressing close to the earth, trying to stay warm. It's like cuddling a cold sponge. You shiver, you tremble. You whisper every modern swear word you know, even though you promised yourself this would stay PG-13. This isn't a disaster, yet, but it's miserable. And this is why people didn't just survive day by day, but season by season. This is where shelter strategy became an early human priority. Historians still argue whether early huts were communal or private, but most agree. As weather patterns shifted, so did the complexity of shelters. Drier climates meant temporary lean-tos. Wet regions, they got creative. And now, so must you. The rain keeps coming for most of the day. You doze in short bursts, interrupted by drops sliding down your neck or tiny rivers sneaking under your shelter wall. You think about how ancient people handled this. Maybe they built deeper shelters into hillsides, maybe they lashed hide over the top, maybe they just kept moving until they found caves. You don't have that luxury. Yet. But the next morning, when the rain lets up and the forest breathes again, you make a decision. Upgrade. Again. You scout for something better than a bark lean-to, and you find it, a low, mossy overhang where a rock slope meets the ground. It's shallow, barely enough room to crawl under. But with some clearing, some stone stacking, and a few hours of intense leaf hauling, you turn it into your new home base. It even has a small dry pocket at the back where you can store your tools and dry goods. You rebuild your fire pit, this time with a proper stone windshield and a tiny channel to let smoke out. You feel like a Neolithic interior designer. You roast what's left of your tubers, drink from a leaf cup, and finally, you sit down under something that doesn't leak. Progress. You look out over your soggy domain, the mud, the broken branches, the way every leaf still drips like it's auditioning for a sad poem. But you're dry, you're warm, and tonight you'll sleep on a bed you made, in a cave you claimed, beside a fire you built with tools you shaped. You're not invincible, but you're no longer breakable either. Not from a little rain, not anymore. You're being watched, not by a predator, not by some mysterious prehistoric tribe, just something. You can feel it. Prickles on your neck, a tingle in your chest, that primal sixth sense humans don't talk about at cocktail parties anymore. The forest is too quiet. Even the birds seem to be holding their breath. Then, movement. Barely visible through the trees. A shape. Upright. Watching you. And just as fast, it's gone. You don't chase it. You can't chase it. Your legs wouldn't even listen. Because if you've made it this far in prehistoric times, it's only now that the real horror sets in. You're not alone. Mainstream fact, even in early prehistory, humans weren't the only hominin species around. In some regions, Homo sapiens coexisted with Neanderthals, Denisovans, and possibly other lesser-known offshoots of our evolutionary tree. For tens of thousands of years, Earth wasn't just yours. That means that depending on where and when you've landed, there's a possibility your prehistoric neighborhood is a little more crowded than you assumed. You try to rationalize. Maybe it was an animal on two legs, a bear scratching its back, a trick of the light. You're tired, you're hungry, but the sense of being observed doesn't go away. You gather your tools with shaking hands. Every twig snap makes you flinch. Every rustle sounds like breathing. You move camp again, quickly. The cave was nice, but now it feels like a trap. Too easy to block, too easy to corner you inside. So you find a thicket, dense and defensible. You build a small platform off the ground using branches and lashings of vine, barely enough to sleep on, but raised enough that anything creeping around at night would have to make some noise getting to you. Smart? Maybe. Paranoid? Absolutely. You eat a cold meal. No fire tonight. Too risky. Instead, you tuck your sharpest tools under your bedding. Your ears stay alert all night, picking up every creak and gust of wind. At some point you doze, briefly, and when you wake, nothing's missing. No one's near. But in the soft dirt not far from your sleeping platform, there's a footprint. Not yours. Not an animal's. Human. Quirky tidbit. In places like Laetoli, Tanzania, archaeologists have found prehistoric footprints preserved in volcanic ash. One famous trail includes multiple individuals walking together, adults and children, some possibly even holding hands. You look at the print again. It's wide, deep, someone strong, possibly heavier than you, and they were close, too close. What does that mean? Did they follow you? Were they just passing by? Historians still argue whether different human species competed, coexisted, or even interbred peacefully. The truth? Probably all three, depending on where and when. You spend the rest of the day scouting quietly, trying to pick up a trail, some sign of the watcher, but there's nothing, just shadows and the usual noises. By late afternoon, the silence returns. You begin to wonder, was that your first brush with prehistoric neighbors? Are you part of a larger landscape now? No longer the only thinking creature for miles? It's a strange comfort, and a terrifying one, because you know how you react when scared. You remember your early days here when anything could have triggered panic. Now imagine another hominin, a stranger, stronger, bigger, smarter, or not. You might be the threat to them, or they might be to you. Either way, the rules of survival just changed. It's not just about fire and food anymore. Now it's about territory. It's about communication. It's about negotiation or conflict. You build a small marker that evening, a pile of rocks in a deliberate pattern and just beside your old cave. A message, a signal. You don't know what it says. Maybe, I was here. Maybe, I mean no harm. Or maybe it just says, you're not alone, and I know it now. That night, you lie awake longer than usual. You don't hear anything. You don't see anything. But you no longer pretend this place is empty. And deep down, you realize prehistoric survival isn't just about facing nature. It's about facing each other. You wake to the sound of nothing, not silence. Silence implies peace. This is different. It's the absence of movement, of wind, of birdsong, no rustling, no scurrying, just stillness. Even the trees seem to be holding their breath. Your instincts are sharp enough now to know this isn't normal. You slip down from your sleeping platform and scan the horizon. And there it is. Smoke. A thin, dark thread curling into the air. Not from your fire, you haven't lit one in days. This is fresh. close, controlled. Someone else has fire. Someone else is nearby. You crouch low and debate what to do. Investigate, flee, signal. Every possibility has weight now. Every decision feels like rolling dice with your life. Mainstream fact, anthropological evidence suggests early Homo sapiens were aware of other groups, sometimes sharing resources, sometimes clashing over territory. Archaeological digs show both cooperative gatherings and signs of violent encounters. Fire was often the beacon of warmth, of community, or of danger. You inch toward the smoke, your bare feet know where to step now. You move like something designed for this world, not just dropped into it. The smoke leads you toward a glade, thick with low brush and flowering vines. You crawl forward slowly, peering through a gap in the foliage, and you see them. Two figures, human-shaped but distant. One is squatting by a fire, poking at it with a stick. The other is chewing something, jerky or roasted roots. They're lean but not starving. Their hair is long. Their tools, stone knives, just like yours, are sharp and worn from use. They haven't seen you, yet. You stay still for what feels like an hour. Then you slowly back away, heart pounding in your throat, adrenaline flooding your fingers and toes like cold water. You retreat to your own camp, careful not to leave a trail. That night you can't sleep, because it's real now. They're real, and so are the choices. Do you approach them, risk everything on a greeting and a gesture? Do you stay hidden, watching, learning, never revealing yourself? Or do you move far, far away, back to the isolation that's kept you alive so far? Quirky tidbit, some early cave paintings suggest communal rituals, groups dancing, hunting, even grieving together. But we've also found prehistoric skeletons with crushed skulls and embedded spear tips. Not every meeting ended in hugs and shared berries. Historians still argue whether humans are naturally social or naturally suspicious. Were early humans cooperative survivalists or territorial warbands? The answer, as always, is probably yes. Over the next few days, you gather everything you've learned. You prepare, you sharpen your best tool, but you also weave a gift. A small net basket filled with smoked fish and edible roots. You're not sure what it says, hello, maybe. Or don't stab me. One morning, just before dawn, you walk back toward the glade. You don't approach directly. Instead, you hang the basket on a low branch, visible from their fire pit, but far enough to seem cautious. Then you vanish into the trees. You don't return for 3 days. When you finally go back, the basket is gone. And in its place, a different one. Larger, stronger. Filled with dried mushrooms and a small curved bone knife. Child-sized, but functional. Your first trade, your first contact. It doesn't lead to anything dramatic. Not yet. You don't sit around the fire swapping stories. You don't teach each other languages or build a society. But there's recognition now. You leave them alone. They leave you alone. The forest begins to feel a little smaller and a little safer. For the first time since arriving in this world, you stop being the only thinking thing in the dark. And somehow that changes everything. You're not the sole survivor anymore. You're a participant in something ancient, messy, frightening, but shared. There's a chill in the air tonight. Not the kind that passes, the kind that settles in. It bites your fingers even when the fire's going. It coils in your lungs like smoke. You can feel it in your bones. Winter is coming. And here's the reality check. You're not ready. Oh, you've survived for weeks now. You've learned the forest paths, outwitted a wild boar, traded with strangers who haven't killed you yet. But now comes the real final boss of prehistoric life. The seasons. You don't have a calendar, no weather app, just the slant of the sun getting lower, shadows stretching longer, the ground staying damp longer than usual, and the animals getting jittery. Mainstream fact, early humans didn't just survive winter by accident. They planned. Stockpiling food, insulating shelters, changing clothing, and even migration patterns to follow warmth and game. You don't have a village to retreat to. No winter storehouse, no cozy mammoth fur hoodie. Just your current shelter, which still leaks a little when it rains. And the alarming realization that berries don't grow forever. So you begin the pivot, the prehistoric version of battening down the hatches. You start drying food, not just over fire, smoking it, setting out mushrooms on flat rocks when the sun's out. You dig a pit, line it with bark and leaves, and store whatever you can in it. It's crude, but underground, food will stay cooler, longer. You gather dry grass, not for sleeping on, but for stuffing inside your crude animal hide shirt. Prehistoric insulation. You look ridiculous like a walking haystack, but you're warm-ish. Quirky tidbit, some prehistoric groups in colder regions may have used animal intestines as undergarments. You thankfully aren't that desperate yet. Your traps get more ambitious. You build a deadfall, logs balanced on a hair trigger. You spend 2 days carving a fish weir in a shallow stream. It doesn't work at first, but after some adjustments, you catch 3 fish. You sing quietly to yourself while eating one, not for joy, just to hear a human voice again. Each night, the stars seem brighter because the air is colder, cleaner, sharper, and also because your fire's a little lower now. You're rationing wood. The big branches are gone. You've picked the area clean. Every night means a longer walk to gather fuel, and you're slowing down. You feel it. Muscles ache faster. Your stomach grumbles more often. Even sleeping drains energy. Winter in prehistoric times isn't just cold, it's constant effort. You wake tired. You sleep worried, and that's how early humans lived. Not thriving, not frolicking, but bracing. Historians still argue whether early winters pushed Homo sapiens to innovate faster than other hominids. Some say cold climates led to better tools, smarter planning, and even early symbolic thinking, because surviving the dark months took more than just muscle. You build your best shelter yet. A proper structure with stones forming a half circle, reinforced with branches, thick thatch walls, a smoke hole, and even a crude drainage ditch. It's not a palace, but it's warm. Mostly. You hang smoked meat from the ceiling, you stack firewood inside to dry. You even dig a small trench just outside the entrance to mark your porch. You've never felt more absurdly proud of anything in your life. But the real challenge isn't the shelter. It's time. Endless hours of cold twilight. No phones, no books. Just the wind, the fire, and your own thoughts gnawing at you like wolves outside a tent. So you get creative. You carve. With a sharp flake of bone, you start etching symbols into a piece of bark. Lines. Dots. You invent a personal language, a record of the days, you hum old songs, you count the stars, you mark the full moon, and that's when it hits you. This is what humans have always done. We didn't just build fires and tools, we made meaning, even in the dark, especially in the dark. Your bones hurt, your breath fogs in the cold air, but you've survived this long, not because of luck, but because you're part of a long, unbroken chain of people who refuse to give up. You're not just surviving prehistory, you're living it. And if the snow starts tomorrow, well, you've got fish in the weir, you've got bark insulation, you've got a roof that leaks a little less every day, and when you close your eyes tonight, huddled in your little stone and stick bunker, you don't feel like prey anymore. You feel like one of them, like an ancient human. Snow. You've never seen it like this. Not the soft Instagram kind, not the school's canceled, let's make cocoa kind. This is the kind of snow that kills things. It falls silently but relentlessly, piling up like memory. You wake up to white on everything, branches sagging, your shelter sealed in, tracks erased. You're buried alive in a season, and it's only just begun. You crawl out of your shelter like an animal, breaking the crust of snow with your hands and knees. The cold stings your face immediately. Your breath hits the air and disappears in gusts. The trees creak. Somewhere an animal screams, and it sounds close. Welcome to full-on prehistoric winter. Mainstream fact: in glacial Europe or Ice Age Asia, winter was the dominant season. Archaeological digs show fire pits clustered tightly, evidence of animal fat lamps and bone tools carefully crafted to repair clothes and stretch dwindling resources. You retreat to your shelter and begin the day's ritual: fire, food, freeze. The fire takes longer now. Every twig feels damp. You split wood, fingers numb. You talk to the flames like they're a person. Come on, cat. Don't make me eat raw fish again. Eventually, it flares. Weak, but enough. You boil water, not for tea, just for drinking something warm, and not freezing to death. Your meals are down to tiny pieces. Dried roots, stringy jerky, a mushroom you hope wasn't poisonous. It tastes like feet, but you eat it. The smoked meat is half gone, and now you're rationing thoughts. No more fantasizing about full meals. You daydream about chewing. That's the level you've reached. Outside, nothing stirs. Tracks vanish moments after they're made. Birds are gone. Even the squirrels have vanished. You wonder if they froze mid-scamper somewhere. You wrap yourself in every hide, every rag, every layer of thatched straw you own. You look like a very tired hay bale, but you're alive. And then the hunger dreams start. You close your eyes and smell bread that doesn't exist. You chew phantom bacon. You hear a fridge opening and wake up crying a little. This is the part no one likes to talk about: the mental grind, the way snow erases everything: sound, smell, hope. You stop marking the days. You stop checking the weir, it's frozen solid. The other humans, the ones you traded with, are gone now, or just silent. Maybe they migrated, maybe they didn't make it. Quirky tidbit: some anthropologists theorize that certain cave paintings may have served not only as rituals or storytelling, but as cognitive lifelines, a way to stay sane during long, deadly winters. You get it now. So you start painting too. On a slab of bark near the fire pit, you smear ash and crushed berries. They're using a stick to sketch clumsy images: a deer, a fish, the outline of your hand. You're not trying to impress anyone. You just need something to exist, even if it's just marks in a hut no one else will ever see. And somehow it helps, because the scariest part of this season isn't the cold or hunger. It's vanishing. No footsteps, no voice, no memory. Historians still argue whether early humans survived winters better alone or in small bands. Some believe small family groups had the tightest bonds, but others argue that larger communities meant better survival odds, more warmth, more shared labor. Right now, you are neither. Just one. And one is hard. But you don't give up. You fix your shelter walls every few days, reinforcing the corners, stuffing gaps with dried moss. You keep that fire going. You eat slowly. You move daily, just pacing, stretching, preventing your muscles from going soft. You fight the season like it's a predator. You outlast every night. And then, finally, a change. One morning, you hear a drip, a real one. Water sliding from an icy branch, hitting stone. It's the first non-threatening sound in weeks. You look outside. The snow is still deep, but the sky is lighter. The sun has teeth again, even if it's baby teeth. You cry, you laugh. It's the same sound. You step out into the snow and feel it give beneath your feet, softer now. The air smells like air again, not death. And then you see a crow just sitting on a tree branch, staring at you like it's been watching this whole time. Life is back, barely. But enough. You head back to your shelter and start counting your food again, not because you fear running out, but because it might be time to share again, because winter tried to kill you, and you're still here. The thaw doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in slowly, like a suspicious cat. One day, the snow is only ankle deep instead of knee deep. Another day, the ice in your water vessel finally melts without fire. You start seeing green, little shoots of grass poking through the slush, buds swelling on trees like the forest is stretching after a long, silent nap. You've made it. You survived a full prehistoric winter. Barely. But here you are. You've lost weight, you walk hunched, your hands are permanently dirty, but you move differently now. Not like a guest, not like someone passing through. You move like you belong here. Mainstream fact: the seasonal cycle was central to prehistoric life. Evidence from early farming sites shows that even before full agriculture, humans were closely attuned to plant cycles, animal migration, and the shifting stars overhead. And you're starting to feel that too. The birds come back first, sparrows and crows. You watch them with something close to reverence. A rabbit sprints across your path and you don't even try to catch it, you just laugh. You've seen enough death. It's time for something else. You begin gathering again. Roots, shoots, berries just starting to bloom. You make new traps, careful not to waste the spring abundance. Your body remembers what hunger felt like, and it won't forget soon. You visit the glade again, the one with the other humans, and this time they're there, 3 of them. They see you. You freeze like prey, but they don't reach for weapons. They just nod. One of them holds up a woven pouch. Inside, dried herbs, food, medicine. You kneel, slowly, carefully. You offer back a chunk of smoked hair. They take it. No words are exchanged, just recognition. Quirky tidbit. Some prehistoric sites show people intentionally buried with objects from other regions. Seashells, inland, volcanic rock hundreds of miles from its source. Trade, friendship, and symbolic exchange likely reach deeper into the past than we once thought. You don't try to move in with them, you just come back sometimes. Drop off a fish, pick up something new. Not a tribe, not yet, but maybe, someday. Historians still argue whether early social groups were more often temporary bands or long-term clans. Some say it varied wildly depending on geography and species. Others think even Homo sapiens were more nomadic than we like to imagine, only settling when absolutely necessary. You, for now, stay put. This land has become a map in your mind. The stream that bends west, the rock shaped like a sleeping bear, the moss that only grows on the north side. You know when the deer migrate. You know when the rains come. You know when the river swells and when it sinks. You're not a tourist in the past anymore. You're its resident. Your tools are worn but well kept. You've replaced handles, renapped blades. You even carved a little design into one, a spiral. You don't know what it means, but it's yours. You make a second shelter just uphill, facing sunrise, because now you're not just surviving the wild, you're reshaping it. A fox visits sometimes. You don't name it, but you leave scraps for it. You find a new berry you've never tasted. You crush it, sniff it, test it on your tongue. It's bitter but edible. Your fire pit becomes permanent. Rocks arranged in a circle, a shelf for drying, charred bones collected neatly in a side trench. You're creating something stable now, not just emergency after emergency. And you realize something odd. You don't want to leave. Not anymore. You're not nostalgic for phones or cars or warm showers. You miss people, sure, but you have people now, even if you don't speak to them. You have a routine, you have a rhythm, you have a life. And yes, it's cold and messy, and every day is a dice roll with nature. But you've proven something. You can last more than a day in prehistoric times. You can last a season, maybe longer. Maybe this is what humans were always meant to do. Not rule, not conquer, just adapt to this place. This cold, this cycle. and to yourself. Now, as the evening sun dips behind the distant ridge, your camp glows with a low, warm fire. The soft orange light flickers across stone and hide, catching in the beads of condensation on your water bowl. Somewhere in the trees, a night bird calls, slow, rhythmic, almost like breathing. You lie back on your bedding, feeling the scratch of straw beneath fur, the heat of your body slowly sinking into the earth beneath you. Above, stars bloom gently into focus, one by one. You recognize some of them now, not as constellations with names, but as reliable lights that return when spring comes. Familiar, steady. Your limbs are heavy, warm from food and fire. You no longer flinch at every twig snap or gust of wind. The forest isn't silent anymore. It's simply alive in a quieter way. You're part of it now. The smell of smoke clings to your hands. You don't mind. It's protection. It's memory. It's a marker of the time you spent learning how to live without running, without breaking. And so you close your eyes and you drift, not into fear or vigilance, but into calm, because the worst has passed, and the rhythm of ancient life, its firelight, its frost, its fragile kinships, has settled into your bones like a lullaby. You are safe. You are warm, and the night is finally still. End of script. Sweet dreams.